Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and today we are going to be doing a deck tech for a brew I have for Historic Horizons, the new set that's coming out today if you're watching. And it is around two of my favorite cards of all time. My arena name is Bant Wolfrun. For those of you who didn't play during Return to Ravnica Standard, that was the name of a deck at the time, and it featured two cards in particular. And it was pretty much what you did in Standard then. It was Resto Thrag. So blink your Thragtusk. And with the advent of Historic Horizons, we are getting the card Restoration Angel. One of my favorite cards of all time. So with Restoration Angel, flash flying 3/4, 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you exile target non-angel you control and then return it to the battlefield under your control. I'll go through all the cards in the deck, but this is really what I'm building the deck for. I probably cast these spells hundreds of times, if not thousands, over the course of that standard. So Thragtusk, 5 mana, 5/3, enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. When it leaves the battlefield, not dies or anything like that, just leaves the battlefield, you get a 3/3 beast. So with Restoration Angel, end step, you would blink your Thragtusk, you make a 3/3, gain an extra 5 life, and then just kind of keep doing it again. So really the theme of this deck is it's a Yorion Companion, Ephemerate, Blink, ETB, green-white, enter the battlefield deck. So what we're trying to do is have a bunch of really good enter the battlefield effects that we can abuse through repeated blinks. We can set up the loop of Charming Prince and Yorion to keep blinking our things every turn. We have Ephemerate, 1 mana, basically blink target creature that we have, and then it has rebound, so on our upkeep it gets to get cast again. So we're heavy on creatures. We have Thraben Inspector, creates a clue, which we can then use to draw cards, so card advantage in a green-white shell. Charming Prince primarily will be used to blink other creatures to get that value, but also at times has the option to scry 2 if we need to dig for lands, and also in a pinch can gain us life. A card I'm interested to try out is Prosperous Innkeeper. So usually I would have Llanowar Elves in these types of deck, but in a 100 card deck, the likelihood that you have Llanowar Elf on turn, sorry, not 100 card, 80 card deck, too much Historic Brawl on the mind, but you're unlikely to have it on turn 1. So Prosperous Innkeeper gains you life with everything coming into play, also creates a treasure, and I think it's more important for us to go 2/4 than have the fringe chance of go 1/3. So this gives us a lot more flexibility, also helps fix our mana, and then the life gain can be relevant late game. We have Wall of Blossoms, so it was either this or Elvish Visionary. Wall of Blossoms does a better job of blocking in the early game. The downside is it can't attack. I think our deck, I think our deck does a good job of grinding out the late game, so we just need to get to that late game. So that's why Wall of Blossoms in here. We are playing the standard staples, especially if you're playing mono whites, Elite Spellbinder and Skyclave Apparition, tax your opponent's hand, or exile permanent 4 CMC or less. So just removal in a way, tax in a way, information on the opponent's hand, all very useful. We have Llanowar Visionary, which is both ramp but card draw, so another way to get card advantage. So unlike Elvish Mystic, or Llanowar Elf, sorry, this has utility of at least replacing itself when it comes in. We have the Restoration Angels, like I mentioned, blink, blink, blink. We have Timeless Witness. This is a Modern Horizon card that got printed into the format as well. So basically, it's Eternal Witness with Eternalize. So 4 mana for the first side, basically return a card from your graveyard to your hand. And then Eternalize. Eternalize basically means create a copy of it from your graveyard. And so it's a late game. We could play 7 mana into it to get something back if we need to recycle our Yorion or any of our enter the battlefield style effects. We have Yasharn, 3 copies. So Yasharn's actually very nice here. It lets us thin out our deck, get some lands into play. It also shuts off a lot of the abilities of opponents for like sacrifice decks, stuff of that nature. So helpful in that regard. One thing that we will want to see when we are playing, it will shut off our own treasures to allow us to sacrifice those for mana. So that's something we want to be mindful of. can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. Yeah, so they can't use treasures. So one thing we want to see is Prosperous Innkeeper and Yasharn if there's some tension there and if we want to replace the Innkeeper. We have the Thragtusk 4 of, as we mentioned as well. The mana base, pretty straightforward. We have duals in Sunpetal Grove, Temple Garden, and the Pathways. We have one of each of the spell lands. We have 2 of each of the creature lands, Cave of the Frost Dragon and Lair of the Hydra. And then we have a full 4 of Fabled Passage. So very simple there. The sideboard is where I would start, but let's really not say it's where it's going to end. We don't know what the meta is going to shape like. There's 600 plus cards coming into the format. We're going to expect some shakeup if anything. But there's general themes to the cards. We have removal, so Giant Killer for big stuff, Baffling End for smaller creatures. I like Baffling End over Declaration in Stone. We do have a split 3-in-1. But Baffling End, because we can blink it with our Yorion, gives us some late game utility to kind of attack in that regard. I don't really care about the 3/3 token so much as getting rid of, say, a Core Spirit Dancer, a Mayhem Devil. Those cards have a lot of synergy with the decks we play against, so we want to get rid of them. A Devout Decree, red and black decks. I anticipate some number of folks trying Arcanist with Dragon Rage Chandler. There's a lot of black and red creatures going around with Sack, so just an answer there. Rest in Peace, a lot of graveyard synergies in Historic. Let's shut them down for good. Then we have Knight of Autumns, just a flexible card. Blows up artifacts, enchantments, gains you life, or just becomes a beater. So this can come in a variety of matchups. And then Shifty Ceratops for the control matchup. What we might have is not enough items for control. So that might be something we do want to consider. What we would then add in addition to the Ceratops would be something like Gideon, 3 mana Blackblade, just another way to get around sweepers. But largely, like against control, we'd cut the Wall of Blossoms and likely some copies of Prosperous Innkeeper, and then bring in this. So there is a potential we want to shift this if Jeskai is still a prevalent deck, but this is probably where I would start. So that's the deck. It's a Yorion. You can throw in a bunch. There's a lot of good Enter the Battlefield cards. This is where I would probably start and try it out. There is so Soul Herder was printed into the format. Soul Herder is the 3 mana, 1 blue, white, 1/1. That on the end step, you get to blink another creature you control and then put counters on Soul Herder. I don't know if it's necessarily correct to go with strictly a banked deck. I don't know how much we're going to be getting out of blue and green. We don't have like Uro to blink or to take advantage of, even though it kind of go through exile, or we don't have like Skyclave, the spirit that kind of counters things. So there is some options. We don't have Teferi 3, which would play in here. So I'd have to take a look as we play through this deck to see what we would add in blue. If I'm missing anything off the top of my head, like put this list together, but obviously it's untested at this point. But I think just being green-white would be safer on the mana as well. But this is the deck. Let me know what you think. And if you do enjoy historic content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll be coming out with a ton of gameplay videos as soon as Arena lets us play with the new set. Appreciate everyone watching. Stay safe out there and have a great one.